Hey guys, Vern's here, back again with another Supercoach video. This time doing the round 9 review. And unfortunately this week, I unfortunately didn't see much football. I was busy. I'm actually looking to move out, so looking at a lot of house inspections, and kind of did that all Saturday. And Sunday ended up spending it sort of with the missus. So didn't watch much footy, unfortunately. I did see bits of games here and there. Did see a bit of the Freo Gold Coast game. I did try and watch a little bit of the Pies game Friday night, but didn't see all of that. But we'll go over it. Yeah, just because I didn't see the games, it is always hard to comment on those. But yeah, team-wise, was actually a kind of bad week. I don't know. Felt bad. It's the first time our trades haven't really made a splash on their debut. Every other week we've come out, we brought in Heaney, went 131 with the captaincy on his first week. Cripps came out with a 151 with the captaincy on his first week. Even Luke Parker came out with a 150 on his first week. Hewitt came out 130 on his first week, I think it was, or something like that. We've just, every time we've brought a trade in, it's really brought dividends that very week. Unfortunately this week, as we all know from last week, I decided to bring in Sean Darcy. Dropped to 51, so feels really bad. It makes the week, it just, I don't know, just gives it a bad feeling. Like, if your players play bad, it sucks, but to bring in a player and just like the trades not really work out this week, it feels awful. I still think it's the correct play. Sean Darcy heading into the Pies this week against, Cameron in the ruck, Beg in the ruck. He's going to towel us up and he's going to drop a massive score. So, should be an easy VC option, I think. Hopefully the game's early. I think it might be a late game, but I still think maybe just put the C on him and just let him roll. I don't really want to be playing with the C on Darcy too much just because he's injury prone and the VC is significantly safer with a man like him. But either way, I think he's going to towel us up this week. So I still think it'll be correct to trade, but just kind of felt poor this week, unfortunately. We also decided to move on Butters. We knew he'd have a big week against North. We really did. It was all about, is he a keeper at the end of the day? No. So if we move on him now, it's probably better to move on him now rather than later. I know a lot of people are holding him to the buys, maybe. I'm not too sure what people are doing. I know people were pretty sick of him. I was very sick of him. I was really tossing up actually him or Dacos at the end of the day. I thought, basically what made my decision at the end of the day was they're both about the same price range. Dacos is more likely to get his break even and go up in price. I think that Dacos will probably be outscored by Butters against North, but Butters break even I think it was 105, and I was thinking Butters maybe dropping maybe around to 90. I thought Dacos maybe gets around to 75, so Butters maybe goes down a few K, Dacos goes up a few K. And it also meant that I had my DPP swing as well, because I would lose that if I brought Butters, if I kept Butters and got rid of Nick Dacos. So I wanted to keep that to really try and solidify a better score on field. At the end of the day, we take the back line to Conning 69, I think it was. So at the end of the day, if I did keep Butters, then I would have had to use my loop in the back line, meaning that I would have got Conning score regardless. So in reality, I kind of just threw away 35 points or so for no reason. Dacos only got 1 point above his break even. Butters only got 1 point less. So kind of sucks. Bit frustrating there. Unfortunately, the rookies we brought in, Carroll, 28. It's really going to kill his cash gen. Rioli, 7. We mentioned it last week. We hate these small forwards because of their versatility. They will get these massive scores. And just like Roses, I did compare him to Roses because I said he had the possibility to do this. He came out, and Roses put out a 12 on his round 3 bubble, which ruined him. Rioli gets a 7 and just kills his cash in for the next 3 weeks. So that really hurt. And we knew it was a possibility. Just a 7 is pretty ridiculous. I don't know if the man got injured or anything. As I said, I haven't really seen any of the games or seen any feed on it, so I don't know what happened there, but really disappointing. So yeah, trades felt awful. Score, I mean, not as bad as I thought it was, at least positives. And the other thing is too, I did expect everyone else to have very low scores because people like Short pulled out an 88, people like Cripps pulled out an 81, Caniglio pulled out a 37. A lot of common players that everyone has pulled out poor scores, so it's one of those things where I just expected it to be naturally a lower week for everyone across the board. I think if you pulled out a 2161 last week, you were not even top 50%, so It's not the worst case scenario, I guess. It just doesn't feel good, unfortunately. So we'll go through the team. We'll talk about what we're looking at. I might say I've done my trades. I did take a look at the team a little bit quicker, but I've already reversed those. Ranking-wise, we did go down 1,818 places to 5,240. Once again, not as much damage as I thought was going to happen. And I'm hoping that we're building for a big week this week. Just a few things didn't work out. As I said, Sean Darcy also dropping that 51. He got less than bloody Hayes on the bench. So really, really sucked. But yeah, let's have a look at it. And I'll talk a bit about why my trades were the way they were. I will just make it a bit bigger for everyone. Oh man, only problem when you make... Here we go, perfect. So, basically, keeping Dacos meant that I kept the O'Driscoll swing with the midfield. So when I got the 69 and the 41, I got to choose to keep the 69, and I just swung O'Driscoll to the back. So it meant that I guaranteed the better score out of the two, and that was my logic there. I was thinking, man, you just want to be able to, I guess, get a better rookie score because rookies are usually so volatile. Imagine if I had the Rioli on the emergency instead. Flick it to the back, we secure 62 extra points. So that's why I sort of wanted that swing. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. We also captained Oliver. So yeah, a lot of people got that Oliver 99. I don't know how many of them got the captain on it, but a lot of the premiums that we would have relied on for captain scores didn't really go crazy. I mean, my highest score here is Took's 130. Would have been great to back in Took. I mean, for what I saw, it did really go for him the game. I think it was really unfortunate too. I think with the trades, as me bringing in Sean Darcy, if you told me that it was going to be a wet-weathered game, I maybe would have held off an extra week on that. It kind of played out the opposite of how I thought it was going to go. I thought Sean Darcy's going to get a hit out, and Freo are going to shark the ball, and he's going to get a hit out to advantage every single time. Not every time, but when he gets a hit out. But what happened was the opposite. Gold Coast were all over those hit outs. They just kept finding the ball. Sean Darcy couldn't get a hit out to advantage. And then on top of it, when he got it to the Freo players, they just kept slipping and fumbling it and not being able to actually grab a possession. So it just never happened. He just wasn't getting hit outs to advantages. It was just a wet weather game where he can't really get those big marks in the pack. There was probably 3 instances I saw him go up and get 2 hands to the ball, but it just didn't stick. And Sean Darcy is a good grab of the ball. He's usually very reliable in that aspect. So the point, it just kept hitting his hands and just spinning out or flicking out and just couldn't clunk him. It was really painful and really kept his score down. So it really did suck. And for Witts to have such a good score too, I think, as I said, because Gold Coast were actually sharking all the hitouts, he got away with a lot of hitouts to advantage. Saying that, Witts has great work ethic. The amount of times I saw that man going hard for a tackle, since it was a wet-weathered game, usually the big struggle because there's a lot of ground ball that all the, Rovers are trying to grab, and it's hard for them to get involved. But Witts was actually just laying tackles on these guys. He was part of that game. He, had pressure. It was really good. Considering him and Darcy were the same price, it makes me feel a little bit sad. But as I said, I feel like this week, it's the final game of the week, so might have to the C on Darcy. Very risky. But he, at Optus, I think they're at Optus, and Freo are going to answer. I feel like they're going to be very disappointed with that loss against Gold Coast. They're going to come back with fire. I would love for us to get up. It's going to be extremely hard to get up, especially if Freo play like they were the last few weeks. But it's definitely going to be a challenge. And I think Darcy will have a massive week. He will probably, I want to say 170 plus. Because he's going to get those hitouts to advantages. And look, Cameron and Begg, they're not great tap ruckmen. What has kept Cameron alive, as we see he's 90 down there, is his around the ground work. And well, look, he did verse Sweet this week, so he was actually getting a few hitouts against the Dogs. I don't think that's really going to happen with Darcy. Darcy is a much more experienced and stronger ruckman, and he also does good work around the ground. So, yeah, no, I think Darcy hopefully will really answer this week. Hopefully. I have faith in him. But yeah, so that's why I sort of did it the way I did. I wanted to keep the swing, and I thought at the end of the day I'm going to maybe trade Butters next week anyway, and Dacos is more likely to hit his break even. So, yeah, kind of sucked, because if we have Butters, we flick Hewitt into the back line here sort of thing. We still end up with the conning score. We have Butters here. We bank an extra 35 points. Would have felt very nice. And then the other one, I guess, to talk about is Caniglio down there. the man drops a 37. Jeez. That's 2 weeks in a row that he's had pretty bad score, and GWS just looks like a mess, and I know they're getting new coaching staff, but is that really going to change their game? Like, I know they got West Coast this week, but two things to consider. He's got that 37 he's scheduled for the next two price increases. At the end of the day, what's he got? He's got to pop a 150, and that's not impossible against West Coast. If he's playing all the forward time in the world like he is, he's going to maybe have to rely on some goals, but it is one of those things where if you don't get rid of him now, you might have to get rid of him on his bye in 2 weeks' time, but for 50k cheaper, because he's not a keeper anymore. He's look at that 3-round average. His 3-round average is insanely bad. 71. It's gone rapidly downhill from the start of the season. He started the season like a house on fire, and we're thinking keeper. Has a bad game, that's fine. Keeper. And I guess it's hard to say when he's had 2 back-to-back bad games, but I mean, look, it's one of those things where everything's elevated this season. The average that would have made you a keeper last season, you're not a keeper for that this season. You need to be 5 points above that this season to be a keeper. And Caniglio, unfortunately, isn't hitting the mark. And we're going to have people potentially like Bailey Smith and Bontempelli getting these DPP forward line positions. And that means that at the end of the day, if you have someone that's on the cusp of being a keeper, and all of a sudden we add 3 more premiums to that mix that are the top tier premiums in that role, these guys that are the cusp of keepers are no longer keepers. You have to move them on. So it is making me a bit scared here, because I'm looking at my forward line keepers and I'm thinking, Dunkley, Parker, Heaney. Will Brody stay a keeper when Fife is back? It's a big question mark, but that's maybe only 4. Does Lipinski am I able to keep him as an F8? Currently sitting at 8th overall for, I think, average, and maybe a bit higher on total points because he's played every game. So he's kind of on the cusp right now as well. Once these guys come in, does he just... If I keep him at F8, am I at a disadvantage? It's hard to say. Cameron, he's going to have a significant amount of ruck time. Well, sorry, he's going to be the main ruck for basically the rest of the season. If Grundy gets back towards the back end of the season, is he someone that we have to luxury trade at the end, or just accept that he's still in our teams then? But till then, could he be someone that holds up also potentially an F6, F5 position? It's hard to say. And I don't think that people like Caniglio and Butters will be able to do that, so I don't mind that I've moved on Butters. He would have been a great swingman for that F7, M9 role, because he does have that versatility where he's going to go 50 or 30. You put the emergency on him, he goes 50, you don't worry about it. He goes 130, you swing your non-playing player on and you bank his 130 over your M8. It's one of those things where he would have been a perfect player for that position, but I was kind of just fed up with him, and the only way that I could get the upgrade to Sean Darcy was the two that I was tossing up was as simple as Butters or Dacos. I wasn't even considering Caniglio, but after this week, he has to be considered on the chopping block. And as I said, considering he's going to have a massive price drop over the next 2 weeks, if you're not moving on him now, when you do move on him, you could lose 50k. And if you don't move on him, then you're going to be holding him either as a keeper, or you're going to be holding him for another 3, 4, 5 weeks after that, hoping he bounces back. And even if he does, then upgrading him later on, potentially for someone that's, he's made his money back. Let's just say he's had his 2 price drops, and then 3 weeks later he's made that money back. He's gone back to his 30k mark, and then another 2 weeks he gets to the 450k, and you can upgrade him to someone, something like that. It is one of those things where he's going to be a long investment, or he needs to go. And unfortunately, I think Mike Caniglio's on the chopping block. Look, I know I sort of talked a lot about trades and everything that's happening, but yeah, just a lot of things that were going through my head at the end of last week. And look, I talked about potentially putting my trades up, like a quick video of it at the end of the week, but because I didn't actually change my trades, I actually kept the same ones I was going to do. I decided to leave that how it was. I thought I'd just explain why I stuck with those in this video, and that's why I made that decision. Unfortunately, yeah, at the end of the day, it's really just lost us 35 points, but I'm not going to move on Dacos this week anyway. He has the final bye, it's fine. Porter into Geelong, I just can't tell you with Butters how that's going to go, because he has stepped up in games that they needed him to. At the same time, he has been not very good in plenty of games, so it's hard to say. Sorry about the Facebook constantly popping up here. My partner is clearly looking at houses at the moment, and she's putting it into our group chat, and I do not know how to turn off the Facebook notifications on my browser. It just, I don't know how you turn that off. It doesn't stop. I feel like I did turn it off, and it still happens, and I just don't know if I have to turn it off every single time I open my browser, but super annoying. Sorry, I'll ignore that. Jumping back to the Supercoach side of things. So let's go over it. Shorts 88. I think everyone tanked that. Crisp had 100. That's not a bad score. Nothing wrong with that. Pretty happy with that, honestly, especially in a game where we got run over by 40 points. He did have some really good moments. Hewitt 121. Massive game. Amazing to have him back. Really punished anyone that actually traded him. So crazy. Dawson 107. Didn't see this, but that's 2 weeks in a row that he's starting to really put out some consistently better scores. Clearly, he's got that wing roll. I'm hoping he's still got that wing roll that he had last week. I'd assume he would, and it's definitely suiting him better. So, looking like some premium scoring out of him moving forward. McCartan 75. Looked good last week, so we put him on field. I think the other thing too was in the matchup, I just felt like I forgot who they played, but I definitely felt like he was going to be doing better than De Koning. Essendon. Essendon haven't been great. Their forward transition hasn't been great, and I felt like he was more likely to clunk intercept marks. Then Geelong, because I actually thought Saints would get up. I did tip that one, so I wasn't too sure how De Koning would perform in that situation. So yeah, worked out. O'Driscoll, obviously our loop. If he is injured, that's cool. We can keep using him as a loop to swing him back and forth. The other thing, though, is if I do move on Caniglio, I was potentially moving on O'Driscoll as well. But I could just keep him as a swingman in the meantime. But then I don't know who else I'm really trading. These guys still have some great break-evens up here. But yes, Pendlebury laid out. That also really sucks because let's just say Pendlebury put down a 95. If he puts down the 95, then I don't end up with... I would have put the emergency on McCartan, so I would have taken that with O'Driscoll regardless. So I don't end up with this 69 from De Koning instead. So yeah, maybe like another 26 points lost there because of Pendle's unfortunately being a laid out. Plus Butter's like 35. So we unfortunately lost like 50 points this week from unlucky trades potentially. I don't know. I didn't really lose points. Like I can't say I lost points here. Pendle was out regardless. That was always going to happen. But it explains why my week was down a bit more again. So looking into the midfield, Neil's 115. Oh man, it's so hard here. There's so many times. I think back in the last year before that, I think a lot of people would have been very. I actually, it's hard to say. I think 120 plus is usually the cutoff. I don't think you'd bank in the 115, especially Oliver going into West Coast. Yeah, no, it's impossible to bank that 115. If you bank the 115, you're mad. You're mad. I think the only score that I would have banked in my entire team is if I had the V on Miller. That's the only one I would have banked over Oliver into West Coast. Oliver's usually a massive downhill skier. Once his team flogs a team, he's that guy that benefits the most. Unfortunately, it was not the case. And he only dropped the 99, which kind of sucks, especially with the captaincy on him. I think that's our lowest captain score of the year. Probably the first time we've captained someone that didn't get over the ton. Oh, actually, I think we captained McRae that didn't get over the ton one time. Maybe? Or maybe I didn't put it on McRae. Look, either way, really sucks. But yeah, a lot of people would have worn this. And a lot of people, that's a fine score by Neil. Nobody's going to be annoyed by that. But yes, everyone has Neil, everyone has Oliver, everyone has McRae. And they didn't blow us out of the water. The last few weeks, these guys have been pumping out 130s to 140s. And that's why we're all getting these 2400, 2500 scores. But this week was definitely not the case. Miller 130, as I said, I saw a lot of this. He was really sharking those hitouts. He just was getting on everything. He looked amazing in the wet. Everyone was struggling to get the ball. Everyone was struggling to just actually grab a possession. I felt like so many times people try and grab it and they'd have to double grab at it or triple grab at it because they just couldn't grab it or hold on to it because of the wet, or they would just lose it in general. And Miller just kept being able to stick to it. His hands had glue on them or something because anytime he put it to it, it was no double take. He was grabbing that ball and he was making something of it. He was making a hand pass. He was making a kick. He was doing something. McRae 117. Yeah, cool. Cripps 83. Bit down from him, but look, he came out last week, put a 151 for us, and gave us a captaincy on that too, so that's fine. Once again, everyone wears Crips, so another down game that everyone would have worn, especially someone that's been pumping out consistently close to 130. So, yeah, another reason we're all down this week. Dunkley, 118. Good score. Yeah, good score. We take that. Parker, 105. We take that too. Good score again. In a game where you flogged, though, it would have been nice to see you and Heaney put on a bit more, but that's okay. O'Driscoll, obviously we didn't have O'Driscoll here. We had Dacos down here, but I've already talked about Dacos. McComb, 41. Yeah, as I said, because of the DPP loop, we got to choose the lesser of two evils. We got to bank the 69 instead. And then Carroll and Rioli. Oh! That is so frustrating. That is so frustrating to see that 28 and 55, and I think Hamilton was the other rookie that everyone was talking about, pumps out the 55 and keeps his cash in. He makes the most money out of them, and he keeps his cash in rolling over to the next few weeks, as well as him being a 102k rookie. So you actually saved an extra 21k on it. So that would have been so nice. Anyone that went Hamilton over these two, either one, yeah. And yeah, there's just so much damage. They're going to take so much time to get rolling again, assuming they even hold their spots. Look, Richmond got the win, so maybe Rioli doesn't lose his spot. I don't know if Rioli's even injured or something, because as I said, I don't know the injury reports on this. I don't know the updates. If this man's out injured or something, then sure, explains it. I think I did ask my partner's brother if he was out, and he was like, nah, he's just shit. So, yeah, they're going to be massively stunted for growth, assuming they play, or they just end up as loopholes for us. Really, really sucked. Darcy, I've already talked about a fair bit, so we leave that. Bruce, 120. Oh, this man just keeps ticking on. I think he could be our keeper. He could be our R2. I was thinking maybe we move him the widths, but now that we've got to make all these adjustments in the forward line to get Caniglio out, I don't know if Lipinski and Cameron are keepers. Things like that. Maybe Bruce just is our R2, because he's doing it. Hayes came out with a 55. Cool. Apparently would have been better on the field than Darcy. Oh well. And then, yeah, Heaney's 92. Once again, in a game where they kind of blew out. You expect more from someone that usually kicks goals. Someone that does play mid-forward role. So usually players that play mid-forward role, they score well because they're in the mid. And then if you stomp a team, they usually score extremely well because they're in the mid, and they're probably, when they have swung into the forward, they've potentially kicked goals, or the ball's being down there 70% of the game. So they're still on the ball 24/7 anyway. So, yeah, as I said, a bit disappointing that they're a bit low. Will Brody, 121. Once again, since I did see a bit of this game, he was also just looking amazing. So involved, tackling, hand passing. He also had glue in his hands. He could grab everything. He really is a superstar contested player. Gets to play against his old club and really just looked great again. Unfortunately, Freo losing to Gold Coast, who, yeah, really showing that they're contenders this year, so finals, which is really cool. Freo were showing that they were contenders for the flag, and then got done there. But once again, wet weather games are always really hard to tell. A team that's a great wet weather team may not be a good dry weather team, if you get what I mean. Like, if you rely on potentially swinging the ball, relying on contested possession, sorry, not contested possessions, but just relying on just, what's it called? Just constantly owning the ball sort of thing. Like, you want to swing the ball, you want to control the ball, you just want to move the ball, you want to own the ball. You know, when you come into wet weather, it's a lot harder to do that. The ball's slippery, sometimes you spill marks, sometimes you don't make good kicks, and it can be really hard. And Freo is a team that was really taking on the corridor the last few weeks. This week was extremely hard to take on the corridor, because if you took that dangerous kick inside, it was very easy to spill out. And to be fair, they didn't actually do that this week. This week, the entire game, I feel, was played down the line. The ball went out of bounds so often, it was crazy. Like, it just kept going out and out and out. And that's why you'd think Darcy would potentially have the ability to score well, but he just didn't, and Witts unfortunately did. So I think the wet weather didn't play towards Freo style, and the way that the game was played, where they played a lot around the ground, not through the middle, in general, just because I think because of the uncertainty of these kicks, not being able to take those dangerous kicks with confidence, it meant that it actually didn't play towards their style, and they got beaten, unfortunately, by Gold Coast, who it was a very scrappy game. Every game in the wet's very scrappy, so, but they played well. we'll still give them that. They played well. GWS get beaten by Carlton. Why am I talking about that? I want to be talking about my players. Where are we at? Sorry, guys. I thought I was going down a list for a minute. Clearly I'm paying attention. So we talked about Will Brodie. Yep, Lipinski, I don't think I talked about him, but 96, 2 weeks in a row, that's fine. That's good. As I said, that's floating around that F8 sort of mark. You can be my F6 if you're going to be pumping out 96s consistently. I'm happy with that. And as I said, it sucks that Lipinski can't lay a tackle. No offense to him, he can't. He gets fended off by everyone, and it's a little frustrating. I'd like to see him develop, because everyone is willing to fend him off as well, and then it's just so easy. I don't know if he's going to develop it. He needs to just, if he can't lay the tackle through them, if he can't hit them hard enough to get through that fend off, then he needs to grab the arm at least, lock down that or something. If the guy's going to throw it onto his boot and you've been able to pull his, grab his arm and potentially pull him off balance, great. Don't just let someone push you in the chest and you try and reach at them around their arms and you can't get there. I don't know, just lay a tackle, bro. As I said, I really like his work ethic though. He runs hard, he gets everywhere, he wants the ball. He just needs to land a tackle in these contested situations. He's not a great contested player, unfortunately. He gives away free kicks when he tries to hit contests hard. And he's really just waiting for that hand pass out. But he gets into great space, he runs hard, and he gets to that space. If we were a team that maybe controlled the ball more, not even that, but if we did use him, as I say, every week, we could use him more because he does work hard to those spaces, we just don't. But yes, if he could start landing some tackles, great. Give him 2 tackles a game, up that score a little bit, awesome. Caniglio, 37, whatever, the man's playing full-time forward, basically, and GWS just is a mess. I don't want any GWS players in my team, except Bruce, because he has been really reliable. Cameron, not a bad score. As I said, came up against Sweet, who's not the greatest. Unfortunately, his around the ground work that had been so good the last few weeks, he couldn't clunk the marks this week. There was a few times in marking contests where it would really hit his hands, sort of like the Darcy situation, but minus it not being a wet weather game. It would hit his hands and he just couldn't hold them, which kind of sucked. Add a few extra marks there, contested marks too, and he's pushing up to the ton. But that's okay. Nick Martin also had a down game for everyone, so everyone's been very used to this guy getting 80s to 90s for us, super reliable, and comes out with a 59. So yeah, look at that. Nick Martin, Caniglio is down, Dacos is down. We have Cripps down, Oliver down, Short down. That's a lot of players. Cripps' score isn't really down, but he has been scoring really well the last few weeks, and that's why everyone in general, I think the average score was much lower this week. Those that had a bit more unique teams would have really pumped this week. In fact, I looked at the guys' team that won, and damn, unique. When you're running like Jelly and Bailey Smith and Petrarca, these guys that you think are not the top tier forwards, not the top tier mids, they're not top 10 in my opinion. Maybe Petrarca is pushing it, and Jelly has actually turned his form around, so maybe he could push towards it. But, their current status, they're sitting down at like 15 to sort of 20 range, and for them all come out and have a big game, really just pushed. But Durden came out, had a good game, kicked 2 goals in the first. I don't know how he went sort of past that, because I didn't really watch too much past the first/second quarter. Roses came out with a 58, so answered last week's awful 12. If we're looking at the break-evens here, he's still got the 43, but after next week it'll start rolling on. He'll start making some cash again, which is great. The Conning's up to 32, but he's still making some good cash. McCartan's still making good cash, and it's one of those things where it's like looking at these players, who do I want to move on? Yeah, it's hard to choose, and would I rather... I've got to make a decision there on who I actually move on. But, look, just finally on that note, Bailey Smith, someone that you're looking at the start of the season because he was going off thinking, man, he could really be a nice pickup. And then you decide against it, and a bunch of people decide for it, whatever. And then I see a lot of these top tier players in the top sort of 100 or so. I keep seeing the weekly winners. They all have Bailey Smith. So he's clearly in the teams of those that are at the top of the table. They went with the Bailey Smith, and it's going really well for them. And in reality, if Bailey Smith is sitting around M15, but he's like great value for his price, yeah, he's going to be really good right now, but he's going to be someone that you have to flip at your buy potentially. But all of a sudden, he's potentially picking up forward status. Great. Now he's a top 3 forward, and you don't even have to flip him. Now he's a keeper in your forward line. And now you can move out your F6 if you want, move him down there, and bring in an M8 in your forward. Like, it sucks, but Bailey Smith, I think, has really rewarded players this year. Not having him has definitely hurt. Mills came out with another massive game this week. 2nd overall for points, so not owning him has hurt. Sicily, another massive game this week. Not owning him really hurts. Look, the Jelly thing is really interesting, I find, because I think Jelly was playing a lot of forward time and then pushing up into the midfield, and then him and Caniglio sort of switched roles. Now Caniglio's playing majority forward and pushing up into the mid, and Jelly's starting in the center. And their scores have sort of flipped as well. I think if we do look up Jelly's sort of... Well, let's have a look here. So, start of the season, 13th overall. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Start of the season, they're not massive scores, and considering what people were putting out, not that impressive, but at the same time, I think he'd be very happy with that. And then he had these lower end scores, and I'm pretty sure this is the game where Caniglio goes like a 140, and another lower end score. This week, I'm pretty sure, is when sort of him and Caniglio switched, and he started going into the midfield. Had a massive game also against Adelaide, and another low score there, and then a massive game again. Wow. Jelly actually hasn't been that impressive, and looking at his average, yeah, not that impressive either. He sort of just had, I guess, 2 out of the last 3 games have been massive. He's got West Coast this week too, so yeah, it could be... Yeah, for those that took the risk on him, yeah. I mean, someone that maybe you flip at your buy for someone that's higher than M13, unless you think he can push into that sort of top M8 mark. But yeah, just like, because I think Caniglio's sort of in the reverse. Like, when you look at those scores, Jelly's 150s have then reflected in Caniglio having a low score. When Jelly's put out those 80s, it's reflected in Caniglio having a big score. And I think that's just as simple as those two are sort of switching the role. At least that's for... I haven't really watched too much GWS games, but that's what I've really understood and what I've heard, sort of thing. Might be not 100% correct, but I think that's roughly why that is happening how it is. So, captains this week, as I sort of said, I really want to take the punt on Darcy. The only risk with Darcy is, as I said, since he is so injury prone, the man could potentially be on track for that 170, but get injured at 60, and then I have to tank a 60 on the score. And that is going to feel god awful. That's why we'd love him as a VC, because you put the VC on him. If he goes to 170, great. If he gets injured or he pops out these 50 or whatever, then you don't worry about him. So super ballsy to go straight C on him. Something I honestly want to do though, really considering it. Other good games to keep eyes on. Oh man, I think Parrish wouldn't be too bad here. Could Short potentially be someone going into Essendon? Something gives up. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Melbourne into North. Regardless of Clary's bad score into West Coast, he's still a downhill skier. He's still someone that can come out and pump a 200, and I don't think you can't not put that on. I don't think this is a week for Cripps. Wines had a massive score too, so this is like the 2% that own him, and I know a lot of those 2% players are the top community sort of players as well. They really got rewarded. Western Bulldogs, man, this could be a great VC as well here. And it could also be a good VC for Miller. As much as dogs do stack up points, they do have a tendency to let whoever the main guy is on the other team sort of run rampant in Supercoach points term. Just because they don't tag and they play their own game, and it's a very free-flowing game, so like everyone sort of scores high. But I kind of want to go in like that, just like Oliver with the VC. I think Oliver's easily the number 1 here. God, if you wanted to take a punt on a Parish, I wouldn't mind that. And yeah, look, what I'm going to talk about next is how I want to finish off my team. Originally, what I was thinking to finish my team off, because I have my 5 mids here. I have Neil Miller, McRae, Oliver, and Cripps. I actually only have 5, and a lot of people that are the top tier already have their midfield finished. And that's probably the correct answer. That's the correct way to play at the end of the day. The mids get you the most points, but that's usually where the best rookies are. Unfortunately, in this case, they have been not great. But I've used a lot of the money from the midfielders I've gotten, or the rookies I have, to fill out the rest of the area. So, look, Pendlebury will get back on the field, assuming he's back from that flu. I wouldn't see why not. McCartan plays game 1, so he definitely takes this. If we keep O'Driscoll as a loop, then we just choose between him and DeConning. Or even just swing him up like that. And then I can swing DeConning on, but then I'm giving up Dacos' score. So that's the other thing too. I need to make sure I don't lock myself out of players. But yeah, Pendlebury will get back on the field. Yeah, I want to finish my mid. So we've got 5 mids here. Originally what I was thinking is I want Steele. Great. Man goes down, out for 10 weeks with the shoulder. We're going to cross him off the list. I wanted Brayshaw. Brayshaw was going to be potentially this week. He was potentially going to be last week. But the man... Brayshaw's scores have not been great. Look, actually, rather than going through here, let's look at the players here. So I can just click on them. So when we go to the midfields to finish this off, this is what the mid looks like for us. Not bad. We have 4 of the top 5. And then, look, obviously Cripps isn't here because of his injury. But in reality, if we click on averages, we would prefer to click on averages for our players, for the players we want. Because it shows the guys that are playing well, even though they've missed a game or 2 from... who knows what. So this looks a lot better for us. All of a sudden we have 5 of our midfielders out of the top 7. So that's brilliant. They're all keepers. We want those. The obvious ones that stand out here: Callum Mills, Rory Laird. I originally wanted Steele. Steele has had some back-to-back poor games and then got injured. So he's out of the equation. He's gone. I wanted Brayshaw. Brayshaw, 94, obviously much better than Sean Darcy, but his 3-round average, 101. That is nowhere near the 116 we want him to pump at. Even the 108. It's kind of boosted because of his 187 that he put out at the start of the year. Sorry, 189. Oh, look, even a 77, a 134, and a 94. Like, I guess he did have the good game against North, but going back before that as well, a 104. So he hasn't been in the hottest form lately, unfortunately, Brayshaw. And I don't want to be bringing in a guy that's only averaging 110. Like I said, the numbers are bigger this year. You need to be pushing out these 120s. I mean, technically for M8, you need 117. Hewitt's obviously a defender, though, so we're looking at Petrarca, who kind of slips into that M8 role. 117. You know, we can't afford for a guy that's going to be pumping out a 110 for the rest of the year. So I just don't know if I want Brayshaw. I don't think I want him. And then the final one I wanted was Rory Laird. Obviously sitting up at number 4. He's had some great scores since coming back. I think he's part of the Ton Club. Hasn't dropped below it yet. Is he? Ton Club? Nah, his first game was a 93. But then look at that. 143, 120, 123, 116, 123, 142. Massive numbers and consistent. He's looking fantastic, and I want him in my team. I wanted him in my team last week, but with his elevated price, I thought I'd maybe wait, especially because they had Brisbane. I didn't expect this 142 against Brisbane. I thought it would be sucky to miss him for the West Coast, but my buy for round 13 isn't great either. So if I picked him up after his buy, we're picking up for Gold Coast, North, yes, Melbourne, but then we have Hawthorn, Collingwood. That's 4 great games out of 5. So after his buys, he's going to go mental. And I thought I need him after my buys. But he is putting out some good numbers, and I think break even. What is that break even at? 108. He's going to keep elevating in price. If I wait to get him after his buys, this man could be 660k, 670k. He could be very expensive. And the damage he could do in the meantime, I think he could put up a good score against St Kilda because they've been very up and down. Adelaide have been up and down. This could potentially be a competitive game. Geelong also all over the shop as well. He could have 3 good games, and even against teams that they're getting beaten against, he still dropped to 142 against Brisbane. So Roy Ladd's just looking too good to pass up, and missing it, like not getting him now really sucks, but it does suck for my buy. The other thing that sucks is the other one is Callum Mills, obviously there. He's the one that I sort of decided to replace Steele, but also a middle buy, so it doesn't work for me either. Steele I was going to bring in after his buy, so is there any round 1 buys I want? I don't think there is. There's just, I mean, Boak is the only one up here with a round 1 buy. I don't think Essendon have round 1 buy. I mean, Walsh is there for a round 1 buy. Oh man, I haven't really decided on my M8. I'll be honest. Like, you look at it, you think, yes, I want Laird. I think I'm just gonna have to accept that I probably get Mills too, because if you look at Mills' run home, okay, this is looking good for him too as well. He's got bloody, yes, Carlton have been in good form. Richmond give up points in their mid. I mean, he's already got a 173 on them, and this is his best year so far, so could be massive. Melbourne, yep. And then after, like towards the end of his year, like he gets the game's sort of heading here. Like I don't really count Freo or Bulldogs. He does have an Essendon game though, which will be cool for him. But I think the Adelaide, GWS are so all over the shop. North, Collingwood, and as I said, St Kilda are very 50-50. So his final 5 games could be very massive to end the year. So yeah, he's someone that you want. His break-even's still at 167 though, because he pumped in that 62 weeks ago. Last week. So after this week, that 60 will... Sorry, I keep scrolling everywhere. Here it is, 60. Next week, his 60 will be out of his cycle. And then he'll have a 167 in his cycle, and whatever he puts up against Carlton. Let's just say a 150. He's probably then going to go up in price after that. So he's going to be very hard to get for that Richmond game, because he's going to be 650k potentially after next week. And... so he's hard to get next week. I mean, I'd love to get Laird in this week, Mills next week, but then I'm bringing in 2 people with the middle bye as well, and it just becomes a very awkward round 13 bye. Who do I figure out for my M8? It is very hard to tell. I'm very happy with Keys. I'm pretty sure he is Ton Club. Yeah, he is part of the Ton Club. Hasn't dropped below it yet. So consistent, so good. But he hasn't really been putting out the numbers he put out at the start. The 128, the 149. Recently 106, 100, 103, and once again, do I want to be paying up like Brayshaw for this player that in his last 5 round average, it's only 108, even his last 3 round, only 103. Do I want to pay up for a guy that's maybe going to put a 110 out for the rest of the season? No, I don't. Petrarca could be an option. I don't know. I just don't see myself getting track. I think my other option I am potentially looking at is Parrish. Parrish or Walsh. I think they're the 2 ones I'm looking at for my M8. Parrish has sort of turned it on. Like he had 2 games at 99 and 97, but other than that, he's basically been 110 plus every other game. Yes, the 108 this week. 109 this week against Sydney, but still really consistently good scores. And he is someone that I think will be closer. As much as he's only at the 115 now, I think he could definitely be pushing 117 for the rest of the year. I mean, he's definitely showing in his 5 round and 3 round that he's playing much better than what his average is showing. He's got Richmond this week, a team he could definitely score big on. Port, hard to say with Port this year. And he's got his bye coming up, so he might be someone I grab after his bye. Yes, he's got round 1 bye, so yes, he definitely could be someone I decide to eat up. But also his run at the end of the year is unbelievable. Look, Essendon come into Gold Coast, and yes, Essendon is the most hot-shot team, but they come into Gold Coast, they come into Collingwood, they come into North, and Parrish could easily rack up the pill and get massive scores in those games. Then after that, we have GWS, who have been really 50-50, so I think another team we could go big on. Then we have Port and Richmond again, so we're about to see him play Port and Richmond and see what he does to them. But Richmond, the finish, we all know that they give up points to the midfielders, and Port, who have been pretty 50-50, it's hard to say. So he has a great run to the end of the year as well. He's also still got West Coast to come at some point, which will be awesome for him after his bye as well, which is great. Yeah, I think Parrish looks like he's going to be a good fit. I think he may be our M8 at the end of the day. I did run Parrish last year. He got a good 192 with me, and I think I ran the captain on him that week, so be good if he comes back and does it again. But yeah, I think that's what we're looking at to finish out our midfield. Defense line. This kind of sucks because you look at the defense line and we're just not close when it comes to averages. If you look at total points, it's not bad. At the end of the day, Crisp and Dawson are doing exactly what we wanted them to do. Yes, they're sitting at D6 and 7 for overall points, which are like, once again, we want the overall points in our team from the start, and then we want the averages sort of with the upgrades. So at the end of the day, Crisp and Dawson are doing their thing. We started with them, so then to have high total points is much better than someone that have a good average. And on top of it, that's why we want them. They're durable players that play every game. And yes, they're not going to have the 113, 115 average but they're going to play every game, and that's going to get us there. I honestly thought Dawson would have that 113 average or so. Unfortunately, he hasn't been living up to it yet, but hopefully he can get there. He's at a 111 on his last 3 rounds, so he could be pushing for it. He could really be looking to make the trend here and make the switch to be that top tier. But yeah, Sicily, what a miss. 115 average. Oh my goodness. 18 months off the game. 18 months off the game. I didn't have the balls to start him because, as you can see in my backline, I picked players that are durable. Short, Crisp, Dawson. They were all in my starting team. Durable players that are going to play every game and get, as I said, these good averages and in total points be top 6 by the end of the year. That's what we wanted. But Sicily is not one of those players I would have put on that list. Thought coming back after 18 months, his average would probably be down at least 20 points from what it is now. Maybe a 95, not a 115. Still a steal at an absolute steal at his price at 400k. But not this. Not 115 average, D1, punishing absolutely everyone that doesn't own him. Mental. And it really makes me sit here and think, do I need to bring Sicily in? I think the answer is no. I know what you're thinking. What do you mean no? It's as simple as this. He's already made these points. I ain't gonna catch the competition by chasing points. 43% have him. I think at this stage, I have to hope Sicily turns off for the back end of the year. At the end of the day, he had 18 months off. There is a chance he can't run out a full season, hopefully. I say hopefully, like obviously I don't want anything bad to happen to him, but he might end up having to get managed later on. He might start putting out poorer scores because his body's struggling with the end of the season, weeks and weeks on running. And then there is that chance of injury. Even before, I'm pretty sure he got these 18 months off, he'd been injured multiple times before then, so I think I have to bet against him and just hope that, not that he goes down, like, as an injured, but if he just takes his foot off the gas and starts averaging that 95 that we wanted. And then that leaves room for me to go someone like a Stewart, who's very consistent, doing very well. Yes, he's highly owned also, but he's got that round 1 bye, so he can be slipped into the team nice and easily. Same with Doherty. He's got the round 1 bye, can be slipped in easily, but also very injury prone. I'd much rather put in Tom Stewart, who's been very durable until the end of last season. So I think that's where we're looking at there. Yeah, the rest of my team is, down here. Pendlebury's got a decent average. 11. I mean, look, we picked him up at a bargain of a price. He's doing the same as Crisp, and he's usually a very durable player. To miss a game because he got the flu, that you can't do anything about that. That's just unlucky. It's honestly just unlucky. So yeah, that's how that's looking there. And then finally, I mean, look, we can technically look at the rucks. Wits R1. What a miss. When I had to make the choice between Rowan Marshall and Jared Witts, because Sean Darcy wasn't playing at the start of the season, and I chose Rowan Marshall. Once again, Witts, hugely injury-prone player, coming back after a long time off the game, and I just went, yes, Rowan Marshall's also injury-prone, but I thought Ryder would be a few more weeks off than he was. I thought Marshall could pump out a good average in the meantime, and if he's someone I switched at the buys, then that was fine. Who knew that, yes, Marshall was going to suck so much this year. R8, that's crazy bad. He's lower than Peter Wright and Luke Jackson. I understand he missed a game, but like, jeez. And then Witts to be R1. What a miss there. What a misplay. That's so painful. And that's a big difference why I'm not further up the ranks. I miss Jared Witts. I miss Sicily. Huge players. Look, someone I actually considered this week, Goldie. Purely because of this right here, the 45k boost. This man had a -1 break even. Now he's a 50 break even. He was going to make money real quickly, and then you could just flip him at his buy potentially. The only problem there, and look, he came out with the 140 against Sean Darcy. He came out with the 120 the week before. It's like, okay, Goldie was always actually a really good ruck. And he's always someone that's sort of been on the cusp, but never been able to crack that Gorn-Grundy duo. But he's always been a good alternative for people who didn't go that Gorn-Grundy duo. So, hey, Zeri goes down. He drops a 125 and then a 142 back-to-back. And I'm thinking he's got a -1. He's going to be making money. And depending on how long Cherry's out for, he could continue to pump out these numbers and then flip him at his buy. And it could be a lot of value in that play. Saying that, we find out Cherry is, 2 weeks away? So we've had Port play this, and then I think he'll play one more, and then Cherry comes back. And at the end of the day, if I was going to play, 2 games with Goldie as the main ruck, and then 3 games with him as a second ruck, where he's put out scores like 29 and 62 and 70, it just didn't present enough value for me. I think it definitely would have been a negative, and that also means that I didn't get Darcy this week. And as I said, I really felt like Darcy had the potential to go massive, but yeah, if you told me it was going to be a wet weather game, I might not go on that route. I still think correct at the end of the day, but yes, Goldstein was someone else considering back then. He also has a forward flick, so you think maybe he could flick into like an F6 role. I disagree with that completely now, thinking that yes, Smith and Bontempelli and all these other premiums that may potentially get forward status, you can't be someone on the cusp anymore. You have to be in the mix to be a top tier premium right now in the forward line, because you won't be. There is a chance that you still won't be in a few weeks' time when all these other players get DPP. So yeah, good decision not to go Goldie. I can understand people that did for the cash grab. Definitely disagree with doing that now. If you're looking at rucks right now, you better be looking at Darcy this week into Collingwood. As I said, I think he's going to go massive, and then you better be looking at Wits. And outside of that, if you were looking at other rucks, you're crazy. Riley O'Brien just got dropped. Jackson is splitting with Gawn. Gawn is splitting with Jackson. Nankervis, can you trust him? He's really only got a 91 average. Do you really want that on your team? You need to go Wits or Sean Darcy. That's the only way I see it happening. Outside of that, Bruce is the other potential keeper there. Obviously, Bruce been playing amazing. English comes back, so I guess you could consider English. Everyone should already have Bruce at this stage, so that's why I didn't sort of say, like, who are you looking to get? Because if anything, you're probably looking to upgrade Bruce. I said maybe he's a keeper. Maybe you upgrade him to English, Wits, Gawn, Darcy. Up to you. But yeah, didn't really want to go too much into rucks because, let's be honest, there's only 2 of them and most people have their rucks sorted. Also, I did not want that. Thank you. Forwards. So, forwards, yes, we have all the top tier forwards right now. Look at this. Crazy. That's 4 out of the top 5, and then Lipinski's down at 8th. So, that's really good for us. Also, Tom Lynch. Oh my gosh. What a cash cow. We all knew he was going to come out with a big score into, I forgot who they were into, but he was always going to do it. And same against Essendon this week, he's going to come out with another 127 or something. And he's probably going to make another 60k. I mean, what's the projected? If he gets a 110, he goes up 36k. Okay, goes up another 40k. Just what a cash cow. Like, I'm so sorry, but if you, for some reason, you were cracked enough to bring Lynch into West Coast, I don't care that you're thinking Lynch in the West Coast, he could drop a big score. He could drop a big score on the Collingwood and Hawks as well. Even, Essendon, he's a 4-game streak here where he could go really big. There's no way you do it because he had the 44. He had a really bad break even. You just don't do it because in reality, yeah, he may score well, but even if he goes 100, 110, 100, he's not going to make that much money and he's probably not a keeper. So you would have been absolutely cracked to have done that earlier than for the West Coast game. But yeah, mental for him to go 167. If anyone had decided to go crazy and bring him in against the Pies, mental if you've done that, insane. And then the Hawthorn. Like, if you brought him in for this Hawthorn game, I think that's a bit silly because yes, he's going to have a good game against Hawthorn and Essendon. I don't know if he's going to do very well against Sydney. And then he has his bye. I mean, yes, could he be a cash grab? Makes 83k here, makes 40k against Essendon, maybe makes 10k against Sydney, so it maybe makes you 130k in a few quick rounds, but it's a trade that's extremely valuable and hard to make. And since he was already at that stage, 400, 390k, whatever he was, you'd probably have to upgrade a rookie to him as well, so it's not even like you'd be making money. You'd upgrade a rookie, and then you can't upgrade to a premium because you went to Lynch. So yeah, there's no way you ever did that, but what a madman. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Libba has turned on since he got forward status. Look at this 3-round and 5-round average. And his average is down at 102. I think it was a 99 or so, 98 average when he got the forward status. No, it would have been much less than that, actually. So when he got the forward status, obviously that was coming into round 6 here. So he got the forward status here. His average was... Oh, this was up. So it was 92 heading into it. So 92 average. Nobody's probably bringing him in as a forward because he wasn't performing well enough to be a top-tier forward. Then he comes out with the 137, the 87, 107, 128. And all of a sudden his average is up to the 102. He's sitting 4th overall on total points. And yeah, if you brought him in for this game, great. But this is what I'm talking about. Bailey Smith is also going to slip down here. Potentially Bontempelli slips down here. You know, no guarantees they do, but it's just one of those things where it's insane. Like, you have to be one of these top tier forwards because those guys move down into F1, F2, F3. Then all these guys get moved down the table, and all of a sudden Will Brodie drops down to the 8th overall. That's not even counting bloody English coming back. Then what? Will Brodie moves down to like 9th overall, and then he's really on the cusp of, man, I guess he's a keeper because he's 9th, but he's not the best of the best. He's not the top guy you want. And then with 5 coming back, does he maintain this score? Crazy. I mean, Lipinski drops all the way down to, even in pressing averages, he drops down quite significantly, assuming you add in, as I said, like Bontempelli and Smith and stuff, drops down to like 13. Like, he's just not technically a keeper at that point. So, I mean, hopefully he can scrape together being a keeper, Lipinski, because that will really help. But yeah, basically, sorry, got my forwards filled out at this stage. I mean, we've got Dunkley, Heaney, Parker. I don't know if Will Brodie ends up being a keeper. At this stage, we're going to have to play like he is. Lipinski, I want to play like he is at the moment. And then who am I bringing in? If English comes back with the form he had, potentially, but he did just get injured too, so it's always hard to bring someone back in after injury. Sometimes they don't play as well after injury, and also, if it reoccurs, it's going to be painful. So then I think Lib is maybe the next on the table, but if Bailey Smith and Bont come down, they have to be picked up. So then all of a sudden, yes, Lipinski's not a keeper. Will Brodie potentially not a keeper. And then, as I mentioned, Darcy Cameron, who's also sitting around much lower down on the table, potentially not a keeper. And then that's just more trades you have to make at the end of the day, and that's the other thing you have to consider here. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that before I talked about my trades because I want you guys to know what I'm sort of looking at here. And yeah, all of a sudden what we have, we're just going to scroll out a bit so we can actually see everything here. So yes, we have 18 trades on the table. We have 1 more defender to fill. We have 3 midfielders to fill. And then assuming we don't keep these guys, man, that could be 5 right there. That's just not doable. It's literally not doable. It's actually impossible. Because if we do 5 upgrades here, assuming you go 1 down, 1 up because they've made enough money that they should be an easy 1 down, 1 up, that's still 10 trades. That leaves us with 8. Then we've got to make 3 here and 1 in the defense. That literally is all 18 trades to continue. There have to be luxury trades at this stage if I'm going to do that. I have to keep Lipinski as a keeper. I have to potentially maybe keep Darcy Cameron as a keeper. Maybe even Will Brodie. And that wasn't even counting Bruce. Bruce I counted as a keeper just then. So it's going to be hard. Maybe I was a bit too crazy with my trades bringing in sideways plays like Cameron. Nah, I don't think so. I think I've been happy with my trades so far. It's just the versatility of the season. It's been a bit of a test season. This is the first time, obviously, we've ever had these DPP roles flipping in halfway through the season, and all of a sudden your keepers are no longer keepers. I guess that's what we had to consider. And a reason why people, I think, weren't building up the forward line early, because at the end of the day, we were thinking all these mids are going to get forward status, and then your forwards are no longer keepers, so what's the point of getting them now when you have to trade them again later? Obviously, I started with Lipinski, I started with Brodie. Maybe I shouldn't have brought Heaney in when I did, but he's been good value in the meantime. Cameron's good value, but I guess he's more of a cash cow for a rookie position, but really good in the meantime for us on field. Yeah, crazy. So what are we doing this week? We have to make a decision of who we're bringing in. I want to bring in a big mid. So we're looking at Callum Mills, Rory Laird, and then, as I mentioned, Parrish or Walsh will be on their bye. So they're not coming in this week. So it's going to be Mills or Laird. I'm not bringing in anyone in the forward. I could potentially look at Sicily in the back line, but then I also could look at Stewart on his bye flip, as they're not going to do Sicily. So Stewart on his bye flip. That's the other thing I got to consider too here. So when we have this round 12 bye and I want to bring Stewart and Parrish in, I can't do that in the same round. Like, yes, I'll have 3 trades, but I would need to downgrade significantly. I might even have to use this boost to get that. And then I'm bringing... that wouldn't be too bad. That's something that's doable. Yeah, not many people in this first buy, which makes it really hard, because if I'm trading Caniglio to Laird, all of a sudden there's even less people in this buy, which really sucks. Or to Mills. It sucks, because I think I'm going to have to go Caniglio this week. I think I've decided on that. Round 13, and that's what I'm talking about. Look at all these premiums we're losing already. We're losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 premiums, which isn't too many because I've been trying to stack the round 14 buy, so at least that's worked in our favor. But all of a sudden, if we bring in a lad, we have 5 premiums in our mids. At least we can switch these players, like we can switch Parker and Brody, so then I can have a bit more cover. Durden covers here, these 2 cover here. Things like that. We lose our bench cover for that week here. Not actually the worst. And then I think the round 14 buy, which we've been trying to stack, doesn't even look too bad either. We have 2 premiums there, 2 premiums there, premiums there, premiums there, premiums there. It actually is maybe a bit more better split than I thought. But as I said, I'd much rather bring in these round 14 buy players and then flip them, but I just don't know if I actually have the trades to flip them anymore. Because I talked about, maybe I'll flip Brody on his buy. Maybe I'll flip Pendlebury on his buy, like, to make sure I get these better scores. But I just don't think that's realistic anymore. So the other one I was talking about getting rid of was O'Driscoll. It's really annoying to actually move on O'Driscoll, just because then I lose this flip that I have. And Marden's been so good on field in the forward line, so I could move on Marden. What's his break even at? 86. He's been good for us. But if I move on Marden rather than O'Driscoll, it's more money in the bank for an upgrade next week. And I keep the DPP flip, which would be really nice to keep. It would be really nice to keep. Because the way it would work is, let's say McCartan gets his score, drops out of 60. Cool. We wait for McComb to get his score, drops out of 65. Sweet. I switch. Then I can choose where to go where. Because they have the last game, I can indefinitely switch them and take whichever score's better, period. If I get rid of O'Driscoll, I have to take the McCartan score on a loophole. Actually, I don't even have a loophole at that stage, unless somebody gets dropped again, which I talked about last week. I don't have a dedicated loophole, so I'm relying on someone being dropped. O'Driscoll might be someone I have to maybe trade when I'm coming into round 12 so that I have more rookies on the field. Marden has the first bye, so I would trade him on his bye, which is kind of awkward because I'd kind of rather keep him through the byes. So I think Marden is actually a good trade. I think we take Marden out into Richmond. He could really perform well, but I like keeping the DPP flip. I like keeping it. It's as simple as that. I still want it. So we're going to get rid of Marden. And we're going to actually get rid of Caniglio. I don't want to hold him in the long run. I don't want to hold him till he's bye, lose 50k there, really suck, or then have to commit to holding him for longer than his bye and him be pumping out terrible scores. I don't want to do that. So he's gone, and then the question is Mills, Laird. At the end of the day, Laird has a 108 break even, and I love the run he's coming up against. Mills has a much better run at the end of the season, but he also has that 167 break even, so he might be someone targeted next week instead. Only problem once again with that is the middle buy. We are just pumping players from the middle buys into our team. What am I doing here? I can just do break evens. And by the way, we're always grabbing Greg Clark here. Because we're looking at rookies. Oh, Rankin. He's actually a rookie. He's back. He's back, boys. Cooper Hamilton made mistakes. Oh, well. Where are we going? Flip Dunkley down there. I still technically have Rioli, so I still have the forward midfield flip. But it kind of sucks because I'd have to flip Rioli with a premium at that stage, like with a Lipinski or something. And then put him on field over O'Driscoll. Yeah, still doable. Still doable. But then I have to, field a Durden down here? No, that's just going to suck. So that's not going to happen. Cool, so that's what we're looking at. West Coast are into GWS, and they've been very questionable, so I'm fine to play Clark on field, honestly. Even him pumping out a 62, like, that's great. That's great. We take that every day of the week. So yeah, I think that's how we're looking. I think that's how the team looks. It looks good. We still have the flip with the mid. We still technically have the flip with the forward, even if it is a bad flip forward. The team looks better. We bank 150k next week. We don't use the boost this week because I kind of want to save that for the buys to try and get more warm buddies on field. At the same time, if I say I've made a boost play, what could I even do with it? Now, there's no like must-have rookies that I'm aware of. I'll look through it more in the week if there really is one that you need. But I'm not getting to a premium anywhere. There's no way Dacos is getting up. I mean, I'm not getting anyone for 530k. No way. I'm not getting anyone for 430k. Yeah, not getting rid of a potential keeper. I can't do that anymore. I have to keep these guys with hopes that they stay all season. So I think I keep the boost for the buys when I'm making crazy plays and probably burning the rest of my trades. But yes, that's how the team's going to look going into the next round. I think it looks good. I'm pretty happy with the back line in reality. As I said, missing Sicily sucks, but these players are still good players and they can still put out great scores. Midfield is really coming together. Anyone that got onto Laird or early is probably feeling $100, but sorry, you're probably $1 million is I think the term, because $100 really isn't much. sorry. So Laird in the team makes the team look so nice and feels so good. I think he can score well into St Kilda, Adelaide Oval. They've been 50-50. They could get up on a win here. And then Darcy into Collingwood as the captain. Crazy. And then we still have the loop there. So once again, if Oliver goes 200, we just put the C on O'Driscoll and easy done. Easy done. The other thing here to consider is it's like if McComb does have a terrible game, if Carroll has a terrible game, Rioli has a terrible game, if all these players have terrible games, I still have to play one of them on field. There's no way around me not playing one of them on field, so I'm always gonna, I mean look, we could have a really bad game here, and then I could potentially go like O'Driscoll into the back line, put DeConning on field instead, but DeConning plays so early, there's no way that ever happens, so for me to do that, I'd have to look, Carroll plays early. Yeah, so let's say DeConning has a bad game, Carroll has a bad game, McCone has a bad game, McCartan has a bad game. I don't want either of these guys on field. And then I have to risk a Rioli into an Essendon on field instead? That also sounds crazy. There's a good it is extremely unlikely that O'Driscoll leaves my field. He'll probably be on my field, and there's a good chance he could take the C. Saying that, Oliver plays way before Richmond, so say Oliver pumps out another 110 or something, not really a VC score that I want to keep. McComb and McCartan both pumped out 30s, then I could always make the flick to the Rioli. So I'll know in plenty of time to know if it's a worthwhile decision to put Rioli on field. So yeah, look, that's my thinking with my team, guys, and my process between all that, so I hope that helps you all. I know a few of you like me going through my thoughts. Leave those comments, talk to me, tell me what you're thinking, tell me what you scored, because as I said, it was a really down week, so it'd be nice to know if you had a great week. That'd be awesome to hear. Also, it'd be nice to know that, as I said, I'm not alone. But yeah, I think look, final thing, as I sort of not leave it on, we looked at the players that we want. Lots of players to get. If you guys don't have, I guess, these 6 midfielders, I think these are super ideal midfielders, and any of them are really worth to bring in at the moment. I mean, maybe Neil. I think everyone should have started Neil, so not really a problem. Oliver coming into North. I'd hope you'd already had Oliver. Bring him in now may kind of suck. Laird is someone to definitely get in. Miller is someone to definitely get in. Even though he's into the Dogs, I still believe in him. McRae, definitely someone to get in. Definitely could score well here. And once again, Cripps. If you don't have Cripps, that's respectable. I respect someone to play the antipod, but I don't think you'd get him in if you don't have him already, sort of thing. Yeah, and then Darcy's a great one to look for here. Defense, yeah, all these players are good to look for. And then, as I said, Sicily, Stewart, a good look at. Voston is also kind of cool. Forward lines. I mean, Bailey Smith is actually a really cool one to bring in here, because if you bring in him here with the anticipation of him getting that forward DP, and then you can flip him down to the forward later on, cool. Could be really good for you now, especially because he would have a really nice break even into Gold Coast. The only way that backfires is if you bring him in with the anticipation of him getting the forward DPP, he doesn't get the forward DPP, and then you're just locked with an M8 that you didn't really want. So, yeah, plenty of things to consider there, guys. Yeah, hope you all enjoyed it. I'm sorry I've rambled for ages. As I said, really just talking about my thoughts, and I hope that that's all helped you with your decisions. And yeah, we'll catch you next week. As I said, I'll make a video if I decide against these trades. I'm pretty confident I'm going to stick with these, though. So, yeah, I think I've talked enough. So, peace, later. Love y'all.